Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/ entitled parents, where the parents are extremely entitled. If you enjoyed today's stories, remember to like, subscribe, get yourself a can of Dr. Pepper, like so, and let's get started, shall we? She called me a killer, now she's out. This story is truly cruel. The closest person to me in the whole world is my grandmother. She was the one who saved me when my mother was abusing me. When my mother threw me out between the ages of 13 and 16, I knew I could take a taxi in the middle of the night and go to my grandma's. She would come downstairs at any hour, pay the fare, and take me in for the night. When I wanted to hurt myself, I either went to my grandma's or called her. And this grandma, astonishingly, is my mother's mother, and she is fully, painfully aware that her daughter is a monster and not a human being. She knows exactly how much harm my mother has caused me. A few years ago, my grandmother had like a full collapse. She was barely breathing and her heart was barely responding. She was rushed to the hospital completely unconscious. My mother was screaming in hysterics, and I cried my eyes out every night. The doctors gave her no chance. After 3 months of unconsciousness, they asked us, the family, to consider taking her off life support to let her go. By then, I hadn't spoken to my mother in years. But in that situation, of course, we started talking again. One day, my mother called me crying, begging for advice. What should we do? Should we keep my grandma on the machines or should we let her go? The hospital didn't want to keep her much longer. They wanted to transfer her to hospice. She occasionally breathed on her own, but the question is, if her condition crashed again, should we intubate her again? If she stopped breathing? I love my grandmother 100 times more than my mother. She meant the world to me, but I also knew she would never want to exist, as she used to say, like a vegetable. She was a strong, amazing woman who always wanted to stay independent. So I told my mother, she's alive now, she's still breathing, let's hold on to that. But if she were to go to hospice, I don't think we should prolong her life by force. And at that moment, my mother's tone changed. Ha! Got you. I knew it. You always wanted to off her. I recorded this. Ha 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 ha. You idiot. You totally fell for it. Stupid bitch. Now the entire inheritance will go to me. I then hung up. 2 days later, my grandmother regained consciousness. It took her almost 6 months to fully recover her strength and mobility, but she did it. She's been doing well ever since. It's been 6 years now and she's fine. My mother has visited her many times playing that recording over and over again. She keeps repeating, "That beloved granddaughter of yours wanted to off you." But Grandma always replies, "Oh, fuck off. I wouldn't want to spend the rest of my days on a ventilator either." She was right. Then after some time, my grandmother wrote an updated will. One that can't be challenged. One that completely disinherits my mother, and it's signed by several lawyers and psychologists. My grandmother is doing well. I love her more than anyone in the world. And my mother, who would have inherited something by legal succession if she acted like a human being, will now get nothing. F you. Someone in the comments says, time to get a restraining order on Psycho Mom. She sounds seriously off her trolley. So the OP says, I'll wait for now till my grandma is okay. I don't want to push it. She is sad that her own child is acting so crazy. The fact that she had to change her will was difficult enough for her. I'm sorry you had to go through that, OP. I'm going to go on to the next story now. Entitled parent wants me to change plane seats because my face scared her child. I, 24 male, am visiting Boston for the week and just got off a 5-hour flight a few hours ago, and I'm still kind of shaken up and upset. For context, a few months ago I had a procedure called an orbital externalization, if you can call it that. You can search it up if you want, for an aggressive cancer that left me with what is basically a hole the size of a pool ball right where my eye used to be. I typically don't wear any facial coverings or prosthetics to cover it because of how recent this was, and now I'm still attempting to come to terms with the fact that I'm basically missing the upper half of the right side of my face. Anyway, on this flight, I picked a window seat, like I always do, and settle in. And not long after, a woman boards with her husband and her son, who's around 4 to 5 years old. Her husband has a seat in the row behind me, and she and her son have a middle in the aisle seats in my row. The moment her son saw me, he visibly recoils. I'm used to the occasional glances and stares, and it doesn't bother me. But whenever I notice children looking scared of me, that always kind of hurts. I know kids don't have filters, I understand, but I was expecting his mother to just tell him to knock it off or something. Instead, she asked me, "Can you switch seats with my husband? My son's not exactly the most comfortable sitting next to you. I apologize. He's kind of scared here, so it would really help us out." I told her that no, I wouldn't change seats because I wanted my window seat, to which she asked me a few more times before giving up and saying something along the lines of, "Seriously, he's only a child. I thought you might be a little more sensitive." And that pissed me off. I am sensitive. I've been sensitive about my face since the day I got surgery. I've avoided photos, mirrors, and public settings all too often. But apparently I'm not sensitive enough for choosing my own comfort over a random child's. To be honest, for a while after that, I had to hold in tears because my disfigurement embarrasses me. And oftentimes I'm so embarrassed I don't go out much. And this reminded me exactly why. I understand a child is just a child and people will stare, but I just hate how she treated me as if I was doing something wrong just by existing. Anyways, I'm in Boston now, so yay! I just hope that more parents will teach their kids that when they see someone who looks different, they're still normal people inside and don't deserve any different treatment than if they look normal. Entitled mom demanded I prove my kid was actually mine at the playground. Yesterday after work, I took my 5-year-old to our local playground because he's been bouncing off the walls all day. It was pretty busy, lots of parents sitting on benches, kids running around, the usual. My son was on the climbing thing, and I was standing nearby because he's still in that phase where he thinks he's invincible. A woman I'd never seen before was watching him way too hard, like following him with her eyes. I didn't think much of it until my kid slid down and ran over to me for water, and she marched up with her arms crossed and goes, "Is that your child?" I said, "Yes, obviously." And she immediately hits me with, "Well, he keeps cutting in front of my daughter. You need to control him." I told her I'd talk to him, and I did. I said, "Hey, buddy, wait your turn." He nodded and ran back, and I thought that was it. Nah. 10 minutes later, she's back, this time louder, saying my son pushed her kid. My son is tiny, and her daughter was older and bigger, but sure. I asked my son what happened. He said the girl wouldn't let him climb, and he went around her, and maybe bumped into her by accident. I apologized. Words, will you not? I apologized anyway because whatever, playground stuff happens. Entitled mom says, "I don't even think he's yours. I haven't seen you here before." I literally laughed at her because, what? She tells me I need to show proof he's my kid or she's calling someone because people kidnap kids from parks all the time. At this point, other parents are looking over and my son is staring at me like he did something horrible. I said, "Lady, I'm not showing you anything. Back off." She tries to grab my son's wrist when he walks over, like to keep him there, and I snapped and pulled him behind me. I told her if she touches him again, I'm calling the police, and she instantly flips to the victim act, saying I'm aggressive and suspicious and that a real parent would understand her concern. One dad nearby finally speaks up and goes, "He's been here the whole time, calm down, lady." She got mad at him too, saying he's enabling. She ended up leaving in a huff with her daughter, yelling that this park is unsafe. My kid asked me in the car if the lady thought I stole him, and I felt so gross about the entire thing. Someone in the comments says, "There are a lot of terrible people out there. Unironically, there are also terrible parents. They learn the buzzwords and weaponize them without even knowing what they mean." Fuck her. You handled it properly. The parents at my daycare pulled something so unhinged I still can't believe it happened in front of everyone. I work at a small private daycare and we have this one kid. Let's call him Brody. He's 4 years old and honestly one of the sweetest kids in my group. His parents, though, are a whole different story, and I've been biting my tongue for months, but last week they finally did something so completely over the line that I have to talk about it somewhere. Brody's mom, EP Mom, has always been the type to hover. She would show up 20 minutes before pickup and just stand outside the glass door watching us. Which is fine technically, but she'd also send 4 or 5 messages a day, asking if Brody ate his snack, if he napped, if anyone touched him wrong, if we washed his specific cup the specific way she showed us. Normal concern taken to a completely different level. But her husband, the EP dad, is somehow even worse. 2 weeks ago, we had a little spring showcase. Just kids singing a few songs and doing a craft for the parents. Nothing huge. Every single kid got a small ribbon just for participating. It's the same ribbon, same color, just a little keepsake. And after it was all over, the EP dad walked straight up to our director and said loudly in front of 8 other families that Brody should have gotten a different ribbon because he was clearly the most engaged, and the other kids were just standing there. The director explained it was just a participation trophy for every child, and the EP dad was actually said, "Oh, so you're telling me my son gets the same thing as the kid who picked his nose the whole time?" Out loud in front of everyone, including the mom of the nose-picking kid who was standing literally 2 feet away. The mom looked like she wanted to dissolve into the floor, and I felt so bad for her. EP Mom then jumped in and said the showcase was poorly organized and that Brody has been practicing his song at home for 2 weeks and deserved recognition, beyond what the other kids who clearly didn't prepare got. The director stayed calm, but I could see it in her face. After they left, 3 other parents came up to her to apologize on their behalf, which honestly says everything. I don't know how much longer I can watch this without saying something to someone, because Brody is going to grow up thinking this is how the world works, and that genuinely worries me more than anything his parents do to us. Entitled Mom wants me to lie about witnessing sexual harassment to protect her son. So I teach the 8th grade, and a few months ago I had a female student come up to me in private and tell me that a male student in her class was sexually harassing her. She shows me text messages that he has sent her detailing highly graphic sexual things he wants to do to her, and tells me some of the things he said to her when they were in the halls. She tells me that she has asked him to stop repeatedly, but he is still doing it, and she wants me to help keep him away from her in my class. So before I file a report to have guidance and admin and investigate the issue, I spend a class period keeping a close eye on the 2 of them, to see if I can confirm or deny anything she's saying. Once I'm looking for it, I observe the male student doing things like licking his lips at her from the other side of the room, hovering around her and finding reasons to walk past her desk. I personally overhear him make a sexual comment about her to another student. Based on what I've seen, I go ahead with referring to the boy to admin for sexual harassment and make contact with parents of both students to inform them that the issue will be investigated by the school and possible disciplinary action will be taken. I don't make direct contact with the boy's mother, but I leave her a voicemail and that she call me back. The next day, I'm in my planning period and I get a call from the office saying there's a parent here for a meeting. Now, our policy is that parent meetings must be scheduled in advance and logged with the office. I don't have any meetings scheduled today, but I have time, so I decide to go and see what's up. It turns out that the male student's mother was in the office. She very nicely asks if we could talk face to face about what's going on, and for some dumb reason I agree, even though usually we like to have a teacher or staff member present for meetings. So we go into a conference room and I go over the allegations, avoiding names. I tell her that a female student has accused her son of sexual harassment, and I saw enough evidence in class to refer it to office for investigation.
Now, what exactly did you hear? Because I know my son. He would never harass a girl. He might say something stupid that may get taken the wrong way, but that's not who he is. So what exactly did you hear him say? I want to know what this girl is saying about him.
I saw him licking his lips at her and overheard him say to another boy that he wanted to ride that ass all night.
What do you mean by licking his lips? He gets chapped lips. He might not be doing it to harass some girl. She can't just say things about him and try to ruin his life. I know my son, and he's not that kind of person no matter what some girl says.
Well, admin and guidance are going to investigate, and based on what they find, they'll be in touch with you.
So what did you tell them? You can't just go and say, insert boy's name, is harassing girls based on what one person says. He's already been suspended twice, and now you gotta get him expelled because of what some girl wants to get him in trouble for no reason.
Now I'm thinking, why did I do this? The mom is getting worked up, and I have no one else here, and my next class starts soon. I repeat that I just reported the things the girl said and the things I saw, and that it will be investigated. I reiterate that I'm not the one making any final decisions, and that if she has an issue, she'll need to talk to the principal.
Well, insert principal's name, hates insert son's name. She's not going to listen. You need to go tell them that this is all nonsense. You saw him licking his lips because they're chapped. I'm not gonna have all this harassment bullshit.
Again, if you have an issue, I'm not the one to talk to. I just reported what I saw. They'll look into it.
But you didn't see anything, and you need to tell them that. I'm telling you, I know my son, and you've got this all wrong. If he gets expelled because you don't know what you saw, it's gonna be your fault.
I eventually talk her down enough to leave. I report to admin that the parent is hostile about the accusations and go about my day. They end up investigating and finding hard evidence that he was actually sexually harassing 3 different girls. The boy gets expelled. That is the end of today's video. If you enjoyed, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and hype the video. Now I will see you all next time. Bye bye.